Welcome to this explainer on Mark Manson's wildly popular philosophy. So today, we're unpacking a concept that might sound completely counterintuitive at first. We're going to talk about why the relentless modern pursuit of a perfect, always positive life is actually making us utterly miserable. If you've ever felt completely exhausted by the pressure to always, crush it or maintain this flawlessly filtered existence, well, take a deep breath, you are definitely in the right place. We're about to explore a much more grounded, realistic approach to finding actual meaning in life.
Okay, let's just dive right into it. Why exactly does trying to be happy actually make us miserable? I mean, it seems completely backwards, right? We're constantly bombarded with images of people living these amazing lives, buying huge houses, achieving instant success. But let's look at how our brains actually sabotage us when we chase this impossible standard. It creates something Manson famously calls the feedback loop from hell.
And the feedback loop from hell works exactly like this. Let's say you get anxious about an upcoming confrontation. But instead of just feeling that anxiety and moving on, you start stressing out about the very fact that you're anxious. So now, you're anxious about being anxious. Or maybe you get angry about something super petty, and then you realize you're being petty. So you get angry at yourself for getting angry. You've literally entered this paralyzing loop, and it is entirely fueled by a society that constantly insists negative experiences are totally unacceptable.
This brings us to what the philosopher Alan Watts called the backwards law. It basically shows us that any attempt to escape, avoid, or silence a negative experience only backfires. It actually reinforces what we lack. Think about it. The more desperately you want to be rich, the poorer you feel. The more desperately you want to be perfectly happy, the more you realize you really aren't. Accepting that sometimes things are just difficult is, paradoxically, the absolute most positive and freeing thing you can do.
So if we're not supposed to chase toxic positivity, what exactly do we do? Well, we have to recognize that the subtle art of not giving a fuck, as the book provocatively titles it, isn't about being some emotionless sociopath. That's just apathy. And honestly, apathy usually just masks a deep sense of entitlement rather than any kind of healthy confidence. The subtle art is actually about consciously choosing what is truly worth your energy. It's not about caring less. It's about caring about the right things.
Try thinking of your energy as a strict daily financial budget, but instead of dollars, you have a limited number of cares to spend each day. If you blow your daily budget on trivial annoyances, like, a rude cashier, a weird look from a coworker, or some random person arguing on the internet, you will literally bankrupt your emotional energy. You'll have absolutely nothing left in the bank for what actually matters to you, like your family, your personal growth, or your craft.
Section 1. Choosing your struggles. What pain are you willing to sustain?
Because life inevitably involves suffering, the key to a good life isn't about avoiding problems altogether. It's about finding the right problems to solve. Look, everyone wants the great body, the loving relationship, the super successful career. But you can't just be in love with the result. If you want that amazing relationship, you've got to be willing to sustain the associated pain, the vulnerability, the really hard conversations, the risk of rejection. If you want the career, you have to embrace the long hours and all that uncertainty. You literally have to fall in love with the climb, because the climb never stops.
So instead of asking yourself what you want out of life, because let's be honest, everyone wants success and happiness, ask yourself a much tougher question. What kind of pain do you want? What are you actually willing to struggle for? Because your willingness to endure a specific type of struggle is for sure the single greatest determinant of how your life will ultimately turn out.
Section 2. Responsibility and values. How we measure our success and failures.
To properly evaluate our lives, we need to adopt a radical level of personal responsibility. Now, I know a lot of people hesitate to take this step because they confuse responsibility with fault, but let's clear that up right now. Fault focuses on the past, like who caused this. Responsibility, though, focuses entirely on the future. What am I going to do about it now? It might not be your fault that something bad happened to you. It might not be your fault that you have a health issue or got laid off, but it is 100% your responsibility how you respond to it. Blame keeps you stuck. Responsibility empowers you to act and take back control of your life.
And how we choose to respond is driven entirely by our values. What Manson calls shitty values rely heavily on external things that you literally cannot control, like seeking constant pleasure, obsessing over popularity, or chasing constant happiness. When you value status above all else, a single negative comment from a total stranger can ruin your entire day. Good values, on the other hand, are totally different. They are internally controllable. We're talking about things like honesty, vulnerability, curiosity, and humility.
Let's break down exactly what makes a value good. Good values are reality-based, they are socially constructive, and most importantly, they are immediate and controllable. You can choose to be honest right this second. You can choose to have self-respect right now. They are completely within your immediate control, and they absolutely don't depend on whether they provide a short-term feel-good high. Yeah, sometimes being honest hurts, but it is still an incredibly solid foundation to build your life on.
Now, part of adopting these good values is embracing a rather uncomfortable truth. You are going to be wrong, and you are going to fail a lot. Certainty is the enemy of growth. If you're entirely certain about your beliefs, or if you're just terrified of rejection and making mistakes, you've essentially stopped learning. The person who believes they already know everything learns absolutely nothing. Real growth requires failure. It requires going from being wrong to being just slightly less wrong over time.
So how do we make all of this actionable right now? To apply this practically, I challenge you to start small. First, identify just one meaningless thing you're wasting energy on today. Maybe a petty grievance or a stranger's opinion on social media, and strictly stop budgeting your energy for it. Just cut it off. Then, define a struggle you are consciously choosing. Take total responsibility for your response to it, and allow yourself the grace to be uncertain and make mistakes as you navigate it.
Section 3. The Ultimate Perspective. Contemplating our own mortality.
To keep all of these new values and your chosen struggles in their proper place, there is one ultimate clarifying tool. You are going to die someday. I know, it's blunt, but confronting the reality of our own mortality completely obliterates all the fragile, superficial values we desperately cling to. When you truly realize your time is strictly limited, well, chasing social media fame or worrying about an embarrassing moment from 5 years ago or stressing over what strangers think of you, it suddenly seems completely ridiculous, doesn't it?
As the writer Charles Bukowski so perfectly put it, we're all going to die, all of us. What a circus. That alone should make us love each other, but it doesn't. Remembering that our time here is fleeting forces us to prioritize what is actually real. It acts like a psychological anchor. The acceptance of our own fragility and our own timeline is actually the very thing that makes life lighter, braver, and just far more meaningful. It frees us to actually start living.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. If your time is truly limited, what meaningful struggles will you leave behind? And looking at your daily energy budget right now, what truly matters enough to earn a spot in it today? Choose wisely, because your attention is literally the most valuable thing you own. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.